Alicia from Destination Freedom, and I am so excited to be here with you today. We are going to talk about my absolute favorite RV trip planning tool that was genuinely a lifesaver because we were so overwhelmed when we first started out. Let's dive in and let's check it out. This seriously changed things so much for us. When we first set out to plan a year-long road trip, we started trying to think about, okay, well, I guess we'll like book campgrounds and some of the free sites and other resources that we were using. And we were like, okay, I guess we'll set up an Excel spreadsheet to try and keep track of it all. Or maybe we could write it down on pen and paper in a day planner. And honestly, every time we tried to start any of those ways, it felt so overwhelming and it was just really, really difficult. And it was like, we almost were like, well, maybe we just won't plan and we'll just kind of wing it on the road. Then we got introduced to this tool and it was absolutely incredible. It is the RV Life Suite, which includes a trip wizard that I'm going to walk you through today in detail. It is incredible. So as we look here, we have the trip wizard. When you open up the trip wizard, it's going to look like this. You can open up an existing trip or you can select to make a new trip. Today we're going to make a new trip. This is our road trip that we have in here and it's a work in progress. We're just going to start a new trip for the ease of things. So we're going to create a new trip. Let's call it YouTube Demo. All right, so we are going to say, yes, we know what day we're leaving. Sure, we'll say we're leaving on 3/24/22. We're going to create it. It has different ways that you can select the starting location of your trip. We can choose our current location. We can select a park or whatever. We can select a location on the map. Let's say we're going to start from where we're starting from, which is Bozeman, Montana. So we'll just choose the city and select start here. It's building our trip. So over here, we can create all the information about our trip. We can hit what the status is, if we're going to be using imperial or metric. If we want to have some pre-departure emails sent out for us. You can also put in our RV info. It has our rigs info preloaded into here. This is important to have in here because the RV Life Suite also has an RV specific GPS, which is phenomenal because you can tell it if you're carrying propane or different things like that. You put the height of your rig in here, and so it won't take you on routes where there is a low bridge that has low clearance that you aren't going to clear. It won't take you on roads where you're not allowed to have propane on them. So it just helps to alleviate those worries and concerns. Now that said, you should always know how tall your rig is and you should always watch clearance signs yourself because it is always better to be safe than sorry. So always double check those things, but it is really nice to know that their navigation has that intelligence built in, which is so much better than Google Maps, which doesn't take those things into account and could lead you into a situation which is going to get you into trouble. So we love this. You can also say what kind of fuel you're going to be using for your vehicle, what your vehicle's fuel capacity is, what reserve levels you want it to have so that it tells you when you should fuel up and when you need to get more fuel, things like that. If you want to have one or multiple fuel warnings. Other things that are great, under routing and driving, you can put in some of your specific preferences in here, like if you want to avoid tolls, highways, ferries, tunnels, unpaved roads. You can also do driving time estimates. So it can be your average driving speed or routing engine estimates. On our other trip, I have it set to routing engine estimates just because that seemed better for what we're going to be doing. And then you can also, this is a tool that I really, really like. You can put a driving radius in here. You can show an advanced driving radius, which is going to like have a zigzaggy line because it's going to actually take into account like the way that the roads go throughout that section. Or you can have just a classic driving radius, which will have circles set up, or you can have it say don't show a radius. We have a classic driving radius, and then you can tell it for the driving distance how you want that radius to be calculated. And you're going to see this come into play in a little bit here once we start building our trip, and it'll make a lot more sense then. but I love doing the set distance minimum, middle, and maximum. And then here it'll say your green line is going to be at 100 miles, yellow at 150, and then your maximum distance, your red line, at 200 miles. We love this because then it gives us an idea of roughly how far we want to go and whereabouts we should be looking for camping spots, which has been really, really helpful. So that's something else we really like. And then expenses, you can set some different expenses in here just to help estimate your trip costs if you are wanting to use this for a budgeting tool also, which is incredible when you're going on a trip. We're just going to hit save and finish, and we're going to get started building this trip so you can see it in action. All right, it says that we are starting in Bozeman, Montana. The first place that we are going to is going to be Yellowstone National Park, which is right down here. So some great things that you can do on here is that it actually shows you some campgrounds. You can go in here and you can set filters. So you can tell it things like what type of park you want to stay at, whether you want to stay in like national parks or forest preserves, if you want to stay on a commercial or private campground. City parks are great to look at. Corps of Engineers are great to look at if they have them. U.S. Forest Service can be a really great budget option for you. So this is just a great tool if you want to look at specific kinds of parks first. And then you can also select if you want it to have a certain rating, different features, hookups and connectivity, different amenities that you want it to have available to you, as well as pricing options. The way that they do pricing is by different dollar sign amounts, and they have those ranges on there. And then different recreations, memberships, things like that. So if you have an RV membership and you want to always prefer that, you can pull this up on here. And they have a ton of different membership options that will help you to determine if there's a park that fits with your membership in there. You can also have it search for points of interest. You can have it show you fuel, overnight parking, dump stations, rest areas. So if you're staying at a campground that doesn't have a dump station or dump hookups, you can then use this search option to find a nearby dump station that you can use. Then you can also have different hazards on view and check those things out. Another thing that is really, really helpful when utilizing this tool, if you're trying to see your entire route and you're building a big long trip like we are, and you start to zoom out a little bit, it can be kind of annoying to see all of these campground markers on there. And so one thing that I do a lot is I use this triangular button here to toggle the campgrounds on and off. So if I just want to see my trip route, I can do this. And then if I want to see available campgrounds, I can toggle that on. All right, so let's say we want to book a campground in Yellowstone. Let's choose this one right here. We'll say that this fits our needs and what we're wanting to do. So we can hit right here where it said, we can look at park details, first of all. This is great because it shows you the different features that are available. You can look up reviews from the park, and people also post on here how much they were paying. So this is kind of my quick check for how much would it cost to stay at this RV park for the night. So you can get that quick information here. I always double check the website because like these reviews are from 2009, and obviously that was a long time ago. So prices have probably changed since then. So that's one thing that I always just kind of use as a reference point, but double check. And then over here, it's also great because you can click on the website option and it'll pop you over to their website. So we'll take this, we'll say that we're going to add this to our trip. This is a great thing too. You can just say the number of nights you want to stay. So we could put 3 in here. If this is like one thing that I'm using it for to organize is I'll say I want to stay there 3 nights if I haven't actually reserved it yet. Then once I reserve it, I click right here where it says lock date of stay. And then I put the actual dates in. And I'll show you why this is nice in just a second. You can put any comments here. So if I've booked it, one thing that I do is I'll say booked. And then I'll put in there also if it's paid, if we just paid a deposit, what the balance is. So we'll say that we booked this one and paid in full. This will be helpful to us when we're on the road because we can look ahead and we can see where do we still need to pay for our camping, where have we already paid, and just kind of keep those things in mind as we are budgeting our trip. We're going to hit add this to our trip. So now it has, It says no RV route available using car route. So if this pops up, I would probably say don't stay there. We'll pop that one off of there. I haven't seen that before. So we will pop that off of there. We will come back down to Yellowstone. All right, we should be able to get to Mammoth. So let's say we're gonna stay at the Mammoth campground. We'll do the same, we can do a quick add here where we'll add it to our trip. Again, you could say the number of nights you're gonna stay, or you could lock in the dates. We'll put in here again, booked, paid in full, add it to our trip. So now it's gonna route us there. So if we zoom back out, we can see the full route that it is taking us to get from Bozeman to the Mammoth campground. Let's say our next stop that we want to go to, let's say we want to go to Mount Rushmore, which is over here in this area. So I would look at it and say, hey, it's actually a long ways. So let's pick our campground in Rushmore so that we know what route it's going to take us on to get there. And then we can find a middle stopping point where we can have probably just a one-night stopover. So we'll come over here. All right, let's say we want to stay at this campground right here. So we will say that fits everything we want. We'll add it to our trip. So here's where, again, I'll just put the number of nights. So let's say we want to stay for 4 nights. We'll hit add this to our trip. And then we will zoom back out. And now we know the route that it's going to take us. So let's say that what we want to do is we actually want to check out one of the overnight stays. So let's go to the filters. So let's put this points of interest filter on there. So we're going to say that we want overnight parking, and we're going to say that these are the places we want, and we're going to hit search for points of interest. So now we can take this, push this research thing back. We can see that there's a Cracker Barrel and there's also Walmart. Cracker Barrel's right off the interstate, so maybe we want to stay there. So let's click on that. We can hit more details, and then you can actually add it to your trip. So we're going to hit add it to our trip. We're just going to say we just want to stay there for one night. It's just a little popover so we have a break in our drive. And then instead of having it add it after the last stop, you can come in here and say I want you to add it after Mammoth Campground. So we'll put it there. And there it is right in there. Then we can say, okay, now I know I'm going to check in here on the 28th. And so you can go ahead and edit that. You're going to stay for those 4 nights. So now you can lock in the dates of this stay and it'll have it on there. And again, you could add the comments of things like paid in full and save that. All right, so now we've got this route going, but let's say you're trying to plan out a route and you know, let's just give an example. Let's say we want to be in Michigan. So let's pick out a campground. We'll stay at this one. So we're going to add it to our trip. And let's say that when we want to be there is actually further out. Let's say that we want to be there, check in May 27th, and we're going to be there through the 31st. So again, you're going to click on it to select your start date and your end date, and that will lock in those dates. So we'll hit add that to the trip. Now what it's going to do is it's going to give us a route there, which is great because it shows us kind of the route we should be looking at for campgrounds. Again, it's suggested. You can go wherever you want, obviously. See, this is where I'm saying seeing all those tent things on there can be a little bit distracting. So that's where it's nice to toggle them off sometimes and just say, okay, I just want to see our route, where we're going. So then we can say, okay, from here to here, there are now 56 nights in between. So now we can say, oh, well, maybe we want to stay a little bit longer here, a little bit longer there. Maybe we want to plan to kind of take a detour. Maybe you've always wanted to go to Omaha, or maybe you want to go check out Minneapolis and you want to add some different stops onto your trip. So you can always definitely do those things. It gives you an idea. As you add things in here, that number will start to count down so that you can figure out kind of how you want to be moving the pacing of your trip along. We had a couple of set places that we were going to be at different times, and so it helps to get those in there, and then we could see the gaps to fill in to say, okay, well, we want to tour this area in between here and here, so how long do we want to spend at each thing? And it really just helped us to budget and a lot for those different things. This is a really, really great planning tool. We have absolutely loved it. You've already seen a ton of the features on here. Something else that I absolutely love is that you can actually put in an address. So let's say that we want to put in an address for, like, if we're going to say a free location we found in one of our apps. If you want to see what we're using for finding free, discounted, or cheap places to stay, Michael actually made a video on that for you guys. The link to it is in the description, so make sure that you check that out. So the campsites on here are actually the last place that we look to find a place to stay, because we're checking out our other resources first. And then when we find something on there, we get the address and we just pop it into here. So let's say we're going to stay in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. So we'll just click that on there. And then we can come up here and we can say that we're going to stay for 5 nights. And we want to put this after Chris's camp. So we can put that on there, and then you can see it updated the number of nights that's left. And so, and then it'll also reroute us to go up through Eau Claire. So this is just a really great, easy tool for those types of things. Again, you can type in a specific address if you have a specific address. And it doesn't have to be something that's already on the map, which is a great feature that this one has that I absolutely loved. Again, because we're finding most of our camp spots off of this application. So it's great that we can then take those resources and plug them into here, and it's all one planner. We literally went from feeling stuck, like we couldn't organize our trip at all, and we would rather just do things on the fly, to literally within 1 week having over half of our trip planned, locked in, and campgrounds booked. It was a absolute game changer for us when we figured this out. Some other great things, I've already mentioned that it's the RV Life Suite. So this trip wizard and the planning features that are on it, which are super powerful, super robust, and in-depth, is only one factor in this whole thing. Another thing that they have, like I have mentioned, is the RV Life RV Safe GPS. It's an app that you can get on your phone. It has, again, a lot of the same resources that you're seeing here, but it will, again, not take you on routes that are not safe for you and your rig. It is absolutely the best navigation to use for driving your RV around. Another thing that is in this suite that is awesome is the RV Life Maintenance. So this is a great thing because you can put your rig's information in here and it will give you a maintenance schedule. It will remind you when you need to perform routine maintenance on your rig to keep things working smoothly while you're out on the road, which again is just such a nice feature. It gives you a lot of peace of mind. We have a link for you in the description, so make sure that you check out our link in the description. So you might be asking, how much does all of this cost? The great thing is that it's only $59 a year. The amount of ease that it has added to our trip planning has been well worth that and beyond already. Plus you get the GPS navigation, plus you get the maintenance schedule to keep you on track and on target with different things. All right, y'all, that is it today for my favorite RV trip planning tool. This has seriously changed the game for how we are planning our trip. I have been obsessed with this and using it like crazy, and I cannot recommend it enough. You will absolutely love how organized and on top of things it makes you feel, and it will bring all of that clutter and confusion into alignment and just take care of all of the details for you. It is absolutely amazing. What other questions do you have about getting ready to go on the road and do full-time RV living? We are here to answer those for you and to document our journey along the way as we get going on this incredible adventure. So, 1, make sure that you subscribe and ring the bell so that you can follow along with us. And 2, if you have any questions and videos that you would like us to create about the different things that we're doing to get ready to go on the road, make sure you drop those in the comments. We would love to answer your questions. Have a great day, everyone.